Okay, so make sure today you have started downloading the two things into Notability. The two things that are on the haiku. The first one says close reading, lost generation. That's what we're going to use in class today. And close reading response number 1. Those are the two things. So close reading response number 1 is going to be for homework, which I'll show you in just 1 second. And we're going to do close reading with a poem today, and it's called Close Reading with Lost Generation. So those two things you should be downloading and putting into into Notability. While you're in Notability or while you're waiting for things to download, you should make a brand new subject inside your language arts divider in Notability. And that subject is going to be poetry, because that's what we're going to be studying. So go ahead and make a new place to add that right now. And then we'll go over quickly what this homework is going to look like so that when we get there, toward the end of the hour, you know what to expect and you know what it looks like. Make sure you're doing that right now. So please notice that your close reading response number 1, which is the homework, which we'll talk about in a minute, is due February 22nd. Where does it say it's due?
Haiku.
At AM on haiku. So I'm going to have you open that one as soon as you get it downloaded. So you should be on reading response number 1 right now. Let's just go over this quickly. This is the one that you're going to have to do for homework. So I'd like for you to make a quick couple of notes so it makes sense.
Chapter would be
At the top, where it says the due date, please circle it.
or highlight it.
At the top, write haiku 8 a.m. just so you don't forget. That's already written on the board and it's already on the haiku, but just so you don't forget, put it up there. It's a good way to remember it. The next part says close reading with blank by blank. That's the book that you got from my class yesterday and started reading. Please fill in your author, your title and author. So maybe you're reading The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. And you won't know which chapter or page yet, but I'd like for you to go ahead and do something that makes us remember to fill it in later. What are some things you could do?
A star.
A star?
Highlighted.
Highlighted?
What chapter you
We're
in?
going to talk about it in a second. Just highlight it. Okay, so these are what you should be filling in right now. So as you respond, and you'll see, we're going to do this exact same thing today with a poem. Okay, so the idea is to not only talk about poetry today, but give you an example of how you might do this on your own. When you do this, it does not ask you to do a large chunk. It does not ask you to do chapters and chapters. It doesn't even ask you to do one chapter. When it says the chapter and page, if you have chapters, you can write it in, but you don't have to. What I'm most concerned with is just the single page number so that we could go back and look for it later if we need it. Because we're only going to be focusing in or zooming in on a small part. That's why it's called close reading. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to look at a certain part. Look at your cloud right here. How big is this part I'm asking you to look at or look and close read for?
A small section.
Yeah, what does that mean? A small
paragraph.
A paragraph up to what?
3/4
of it.
Right. So you're going to be taking a picture of it with your iPad. Okay? And you'll paste it right here.
But what does it have to include?
It's up to you. You're going to find a section or a part that you think is strong or important and put it in there. And then you're going to kind of zoom in on it and tell us what we notice in this part.
Oh,
Okay? Questions?
Yes, Miss, can I get my book, please?
We don't need it right now. If you forget, if you don't have it, if you've forgotten the title, just go ahead and highlight it or star it like we said, and you can fill it in later. Because we're not going to actually read today. So you're going to post your picture of the section on there. And maybe you can say, oh, I'm talking about this part right here. Maybe not this part. Okay. So you're going to paste it on there. You have to be reading your book like we are yesterday to be able to think about what's an important part that I could be zooming in on and looking at. So you get to decide, but you have to show me what it is. So I'd like for us to add a couple more things to this so we understand it. And remember, I know this doesn't all make sense yet, but we're going to do one just like it later today. I'd like for you guys to scroll down to the green part where it says step 3. The green part, step 3.
wait, miss, wait.
All right. So on step 3, I'm going to have you make another note. I'm going to have you make a note that says, choose one. Do you notice that the word option is written 3 times? That's because you get an option. You don't have to do all of them. You need to choose one. So make yourself a note so you don't forget. Again, we'll do this with the actual assignment today when we look at the piece we're going to work on in class. And I'd like for you to highlight or circle or star or something this 3 to 4 sentences minimum. When I say minimum, what does that mean?
At least. Can be more.
At least. It could be more if it's a really in-depth answer.
Not me.
Not less. That's like basic level. Okay?
Miss, I was focusing on taking my picture.
Okay, so you're behind a little bit. So let's look at this part. Get it. Okay? Choose one. Put your note right there. And then right, choose one. And then we'll start that. Okay, I think that's all you got. All you missed. All right, so do you recognize this from last semester at all?
Yeah.
Kind of?
Yes.
Do you guys remember we did this activity a couple of times with something called hashtagging?
Hashtag.
This is that example, that assignment, okay? Okay, but we're going to kind of shift it a little bit to do with reading pieces for poetry today and for a reading piece, which is your independent novels tonight. So, go ahead and change documents right now in your notability. This one was called Close Reading Number 1. That's your homework. When's it due?
Tuesday.
For February 22nd, which is a
Monday.
Monday. What time?
8 a.m.
Where? Can you give it to me?
Haiku.
But now we're going to open up the one that's called Close Reading Lost Generation. And it looks almost exactly the same. So please minimize that one. Find the one called Close Reading Lost Generation. And as you'll see, it looks almost the same. Folks, I want to show you one more thing I forgot. If you scroll down to the next page, it shows you with different answers what a completed version of this might look like. So that is on there if you hadn't already seen it, okay? On your other one. Yes? Go to haiku.nido.cl.
No, but no, the reading teacher.
Paper copy all ready for you. Let's talk about it after class, okay? We'll do it after class because it'll take me a little bit of time right now to do it. So let that go and you get out a pen or a pencil. Yeah.
The book I chose, like, what is it? Why if it doesn't have any poetry?
It doesn't have to. All it has to have is a section that's a half a page, 3/4 of a page that you want to focus on. Because the techniques that you're going to look at for here today are going to be the same thing that you can do for poetry or for paragraphs of a story. Okay? That's why we're going to practice it with one today, and you're going to use it with the other tonight. It's going to be the same technique. All right, so here we are. This is a poem called Lost Generation. Has anybody heard of this poem or been told about this poem yet? No? Okay. So I'm going to show you guys a video version of this poem. And it's going to be important because it's a certain type of poem, but I want you to follow along. It's also written on here for us to use in just a minute. So pay attention to the board as we look at this video of this poem. All eyes on the board. Here we go.
I am part of a lost generation, and I refuse to believe that I can change the world. I
Okay,
realize
so we watched it
It's like
go all the way to the bottom of the poem.
so sad.
What's the feeling we get from this poem? So sad. What else?
Forget about like
He's kind of
like something to change the
There's
world.
a lot of feelings of selfishness. What else? Depressing.
She's
Also,
mean.
trying to contribute to the world because he's trying to make it a better place.
Trying to make a point about what things could turn into. So we've got some kind of like selfish, sad, negative feelings here about what could happen to the world. Now I told you this was a very specific kind of poem. It's a poem called a reverse poem. Please continue to watch the second half.
There's another half.
there is hope. It is foolish to presume that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It will be evident that my peers and I care about this earth. No longer can it be said that environmental destruction will be the norm. In the future, I will live in a country of my own making. I do not concede that 30 years from now, I will
But
be
just as you guys
celebrating.
were just saying and noticing, this poem reverses itself. As it goes backwards, what are the feelings we have in it?
Like,
Happiness. What else? Be more specific.
Harmony,
Harmony, sharing,
Being
Love.
Yeah, being together, love, possibility or hope, right? Okay, so I'm gonna wait for you guys. So we're gonna look at this poem more a little bit later. But today I want to focus on just the down version of it. Just the negative version of it. And that's what we're going to do our close reading on, okay? So what I'd like for you guys to do right now is, let's look at, oh, wrong one, sorry guys. Okay, I'd like for you guys to look at step 1 in the orange, okay? And step 1 in the orange has 3 different sections in it. It's asking you to look at words that evoke or bring about strong emotions, words that evoke or bring about a strong image in your head. Ooh, I imagine blank when they say this. Or words that evoke or bring about big ideas or themes. So I'm going to put you guys in groups, and I'm going to assign your group specifically. Actually, I'll keep you with the groups you are and assign you here. Assign your group specifically one of these to look at, and then we will teach each other and take turns talking about what we have found, okay? So let's see this one, strong emotions. I'm going to have this group right here be looking at strong emotions. So when I assign your group something, please circle, highlight, or star the one so you don't forget. Okay, I'm going to have, let's do this, these 2 groups, strong emotions. Okay? Let's do that back group and this group right here. Strong images. Circle, highlight, or star.
What are we strong emotions?
Okay? And let's do big ideas. These 2 tables. Big ideas or themes. Circle or highlight or star it. Okay? We're going to go through it again. I'm going to have you listen to it. But instead of watching it this time, I want you to watch the one on your page. It's not going to move. Okay, but your eyes can move. And the reason I want you to do that is because I want you to be underlining, not highlighting, underlining parts that are the category you're in charge of looking at. So if you see something that shows a strong emotion, underline it. But we're going to be doing more than just underlining. The reason I don't want you to use a highlighting tool right now, I want you to use an underline, is because I don't want you to spend time clicking back and forth. Because if you underline it as a strong emotion, tell me what that strong emotion is. If you underline it as a strong image, tell me what the image is you can kind of see. If you underline it as a big idea or a theme, tell me what that big idea or theme is. Okay? So get out your underlining or writing tool. We're going to watch this one more time, or listen one more time. But where should your eyes be as...
iPad.
That's right. As it's playing, your eyes should be on your iPad and being ready to underline. Raise your hand if you're looking at strong images. Strong images.
Strong.
Let's try again. We got to be ready. Look at your notes. Raise your hand if you're looking at strong images in this poem. Raise your hand if you're looking at big themes in this poem. Big ideas or themes. Raise your hand if you're looking at strong emotions in this poem. Okay. Get ready to look.
I am part of a lost generation, and I refuse to believe that I can change the world. This is a quick fix society.
Okay, we're about halfway done. I'd like for you to stop here. Look over what we've done in the first half so far. See what you have underlined. And if you haven't had time to make the note about what the image is or why you underlined that, do that now. I'm going to give you guys about 2 minutes to talk about it at your table. What did you underline? What notes did you make? Compare your ideas and see what we have so far. All right, so let's look at the second half of it. So just like you were doing before, underlining, but not just underlining. What should you should be doing with your putting a note?
Time families stay together. But this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society. Experts tell me 30 years from now I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede that I will live in a country of my own making. In the future, environmental destruction will be the norm. No longer can it be said that my peers and I care about this earth. It will be evident that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It is foolish to presume that there is hope. And all of this will come true unless we choose to reverse it.
Okay, so this is our second half. So look at what you might have underlined during this portion and talk about this in your group. So what did you underline and what notes do you have about this, or what notes could you make if you didn't have a chance? Okay, guys. If you're listening, clap once. Ooh, if you're listening, clap twice. There we go. 1 second. So here's what I want to do for the next part. Now that we've kind of gone through this and gotten some ideas, you guys have looked specifically at some of these things. I'm going to have you guys look at what you made notes about and fill in the row that goes with your activity. And some of those more words might be repeated, and that's okay. Okay? So I've had you make some notes up here. And let's look at our chart. It says list words or phrases that evoke strong emotions. But it also says draw arrows. So as you write them, make sure you kind of draw your arrow up to where they would go. So if you said, ooh, up here we wrote blah, 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 let's list it in here. Yeah, and that's where we wrote that. Okay? Just so that we can kind of see where we go back to it, where we can go back to it and talk about it later. So I'm going to give you guys about 60 to 90 seconds right now to just kind of put all that together in your row that you were assigned at your group. Because we're about to start teaching each other. All right, so now we have these added. The idea here is for you to teach other people. Now, let me show you the best way to teach somebody. This is the best way to teach somebody. Here you go, here's what we did. Thanks, I'm done. Is that right? No. No, of course not. Okay. So, you're going to learn better, one, because you're going to give people that information verbally. You're going to be saying it, so you're going to have to be thinking about what you're saying. But you're also going to be teaching them. It doesn't mean you can't say, see right here, I forgot, you can see kind of how I did this, okay, yeah? But it doesn't mean you can't do that. But it does mean that you can't be like, here you go, here's what I did. So I'm going to mix you guys up, okay? I'm going to have at least 1 or 2 people from your group in a new group. So listen to where I'm about to put you guys. Okay, so for example, strong emotions, that's you guys, right? Let's have you two. Go to the back table with your stuff. Who are our strong images? That's you guys, right? Back table? Let's have Joe and Pierre. Go with them. This is your new, yep. Okay? And you guys are big ideas or themes, right? Let's have you 3. 1, 2, 3. Go with them. That's your new group. No, sit them. Okay? All right. So that's what. Wait. Back up. So now we are all in groups separately, right? You guys have somebody from every category in your group. At this point right now, you are going to be talking about what information you have. Again, you're going to give them the information here, but you're going to explain where it goes. You're going to have to tell them what lines it goes with and where to draw their arrows. Because it says, draw your arrows. You're going to have to say what notes you put next to it so that they understand why you chose to do that.
But if I didn't write notes, I just like wrote it.
You were supposed to. Do it now. Okay? All right. Get ready.
But what do you with notes, miss?
Begin.
Like focus.
Okay, we're about to go on to step 2. So I showed you guys these pictures in this next little step. So I said, all right, if there's a picture of me cliff jumping, and there's one of me doing some rafting, there's one of me doing some biking, and there's one of me doing some other biking. So if I showed you guys some of these, and we talked about like what were some of the categories that we could call these, you could kind of categorize or hashtag these. Maybe hashtag adventure sports. Or you could say, even some of you said, hashtag Miss Yates is crazy. Okay? Something, and I like this one the best, as you said, because it's more specific. It's something that kind of groups these together. And we're going to be talking about doing that in just a minute with the section of your paper. So just like we were talking about with the hashtagging of those pictures of me, we try to categorize or group them. I'd like for you guys to make sure that you turn your iPad, instead of landscape, turn it portrait like this so that you have it upright. Because I'd like for you to be able to see this chart right here, the orange one, step 1, and the beginning of step 2, because this is where we're going next. So on step 2, I'm going to be asking you guys to think about what words or phrases you have from this chart up here, and how we could group some of those together to hashtag or find a connection or pattern within them. So you might have a bunch of stuff written up here, and what step 2 asks you to do in this part right here is which words or phrases fit together. Now, if you want, you can rewrite them in here. Some people prefer to. list them in here. Some people copy and paste. Some people also highlight in a color and put that color here. Whatever you want to do, if you want to color code, as long as you can tell which fit together. Okay? Imagine if I hadn't just shown you those 4 pictures of me doing adventure sports, and I'd showed you a bunch. You might have said, ooh, these four go together. They're all adventure sports. That's kind of what you're doing here. Ooh, these are all something. So it's going to be saying which ones go together and what is the something that ties them together. So I'm going to ask you to create at least 2 hashtags that tie those together. What category could you put those in? And then the last part says, for the third column, what does this help the reader realize, or what patterns? So you might have said, if we were doing this on the one that I had with my pictures, these words all go together, this is what makes them go together, and it shows the reader that, if it's my pictures, Miss Yates likes adventure sports, or it shows the pictures that Miss Yates is really daring, she likes to do outdoor sports, she also likes a little bit of adventure and things that are a little bit scary, but safe scary, okay? So it's asking you to fill in what you're realizing based on these patterns that you've seen. So I'm going to ask you to do that. Find a group of things that go together, tell me what makes them go together, and what it helps us realize, and then repeat that process. Find a few other things that go together in a different way. What is their connection or their hashtag? And what are we realizing or what are we noticing about this poem as we put these together? So I'm going to have you guys be working in your groups with this right now. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to work on this together. You should be trying to figure out all the way across, and then do the second one when you're done, all the way across. Okay? I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes. All right, so let's look at this. We have finished filling out step 2. You guys have a list of things here. You have your combinations or your connections, which we hashtagged for each of these. And then we talked about over here what we're starting to realize about this poem, or ideas we're starting to realize, based on these groups we're creating of these words that go together. We're now in the last step, and we talked about this in the very beginning with the homework for tomorrow, or for tonight that's due Monday, 22nd, almost a week away. We talked about having 3 options here, and now you get to choose. Just like we wrote on the homework for next week, you get to choose one here. So step 3 says a bigger understanding. We've looked at these patterns. What are we starting to realize overall? What kinds of things can we take away from reading this that maybe we didn't think when we first saw it and just went, ooh, it goes backwards. So you have option 1, option 2, and option 3. And it asks you to do it in a minimum of 3 to 4 sentences. So you may choose any of these 3. Doesn't matter which one. You do not have to choose the same one as your group members. But it's asking you to talk about what your thoughts are after we've done some thinking about the word choice for this poem in at least 3 to 4 sentences. When you finish this, this is exactly what we're going to be doing for your homework, except you're not doing it on the poem. You're doing it on your book. Okay, remember, you were choosing a very small section that you were taking a picture of when you're ready. That's why we read yesterday. That's why you'll have the book. You'll have a few days to do this. Some of you might need more time to read. So what we did today was part of the poem, or part of the poetry part that we're working on in class, but you're going to be doing a close reading on your own independent book. I'll give you some time right now, about 3 or 4 minutes, to start thinking and start the choosing of one of these 3 options. Okay? Begin.